Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Spiritual Talk TV. Before we start the interview, if you like what we do here on the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Click the little the tab or the link below here, and also ring the bell so you get notifications of when we post a video. Anyway, back to the video. We have another great guest today. We have a lovely lady all the way from the other side of the world. I'm in the UK. We have Pauline Catherine, international medium. Welcome, Pauline, to Spiritual Talk TV.
Hi, how are you, Paul? So nice to meet you.
It's so nice to meet you. So we first met over TikTok. I hope you don't mind me talking about that. I was watching some of your videos, and they are fantastic. Just so we know, how can we find you on TikTok for people that have TikTok?
So it's Rock Your Chakra 1111 is my TikTok. It is also my Instagram. My Facebook is Medium Pauline Catherine. I also have a website. It's www.mediumpaulinecatherine.com if you would love to book a reading with me and to see what I'm all about. So check it out.
Fantastic. And I Rock Your Chakra. Where did you get that idea from? That's fantastic.
Well, I own a hair salon in Midland Park, New Jersey, and it's called Rock Your Hair Studios. And it started with, I wanted to rock their hair. And then when I got into this work, I wanted to create an Instagram. And so Rock Your Chakra was really perfect for my Instagram, kind of related, because doing work as a hairstylist and connecting with people and learning about being intuitive and growing that, they kind of collided together. My worlds collided together. So I do both. I do the hairdressing and, do readings at the same time. Of course, I didn't realize that at the time. So that's why I named it Rock Your Chakra. It just seemed perfect. And 1111 are my numbers. It's my birthday and all that stuff. So
before we go too deeply in, we'd like to know your journey. How did you know you was a medium? How did it start for you?
Well, I didn't know really I was a medium. Growing up, I loved to draw. I loved color. Looking back as to what, how I was as a child, being different. I always loved colors. I would name people after colors. So I grew up Italian, and I had 3 grandmothers because, Italians have more than one relative. And they all had colors. I had an orange grandmother, a purple grandmother, and a green grandmother. And, everybody thought that was cute. And I related people to color, not realizing why. I just thought that was their favorite colors. Yeah. And there were always, stuff like that. I collected rocks and, Maxwell House coffee cans and, things that just connected me intuitively, but I just didn't realize it at the time. And then I became a hairdresser because I could do color and cutting and creating and talking to people. And I just loved it. I love to make people look and feel beautiful. So I became a hairdresser. And color, I used to make a joke because they used to call me the hair psychic, because I could look at somebody and tell them what color hair they needed or what the hairstyle they needed. So over the years, talking to my clients, things started to make me question things even more, because people would say to me, oh, did I tell you that the last time? And I would think, oh, maybe they did. Or I would say things to people or know what conversations to bring up. And they would say, well, how did you know that? And I'd be like, I don't know. It's just a lucky guess. But then too many things started happening. And then I used to have these dreams. I started having, the lucid dreaming. And then my mom passed away. And I needed to know there was more than life, than I needed to know where she was. And I started having dreams about her for a year, and then they started to dissipate. But then I needed to check it out, and I wasn't really sure what to do. So one thing led to another, and a friend led me to my mentor, who is Medium Drew, and I started developing with them for about 8 years, and I'm actually now teaching with him as well. So it's just crazy, the journey that I'm on. So yeah, and so that's now I am teaching and doing readings and connecting with people more than ever, because it's about healing, right? If it doesn't heal, it's not real.
Yeah.
So
yeah, absolutely. So you've had quite an interesting journey. It also reminds me of a quite a well-known medium from the UK that was also a barber. So it's really interesting that you connect via the hair. Is there something special about that in terms of the hair? Do you feel people's energy within that? I know you're working on a color vibrational level, but the hair itself, I mean, is there something within the hair that's quite special?
well, you're so close to someone when you're doing their hair that I feel there's a connection, there's a blending of energy.
Yeah.
So you will feel, I feel things, like I'll bring up things about their loved ones, but I noticed I used it in analogies. I would say, oh, like your grandfather when he used to work in the garden, and they would say, oh yeah, my grandfather used to do that. And so, but I feel because it's such a closeness and you're touching them and the top of their head and, that kind of thing. So yeah.
Yeah. It kind of
I could just look at them and, yep.
Yeah, it just connects the two together, I guess, and how you work. Also, with that though, do you find yourself connecting to people on a really personal level and psychically picking up stuff that you shouldn't? If that makes sense? And how do you deal with that?
Yes. So, because I've been doing hair for 40 plus years, I've learned what and what not to say. I connect to people. I don't give advice ever. If someone asks me for my advice, I will give them my opinion, but I will not give them advice and tell people what to do.
Yeah.
I will never bring up anything medically. I will just connect to them in how they feel about it, and hopefully make them feel better about things. But yeah, it's a very difficult line to walk, because you have to be very careful. You can really scar somebody and say the wrong thing to them.
Yeah, sure.
That's why I don't believe in doing predictions for that reason. I don't, because everything is subject to change, right?
Absolutely. Free will.
So.
Yeah, free will, absolutely. Can we talk a little bit more about your mentor? You mentioned a mentor, Medium Drew. How has he been working with you in terms of what has been some of the strongest areas that you felt, that you're naturally gifted, if that makes sense?
Well, yeah, he's an amazing teacher, an amazing mentor. I had first started with him, and I had no idea what was happening. It was like trying to learn a different language. And I remember the first time in class, I sat there and we had to do a practice, and he was my partner. And he said, okay, go. And I totally blanked out. I didn't even know what he was doing. I was so embarrassed. And, but he saw something in me and worked with me, and we've been developing over 8 years. And, I'm always very humble in the process. I don't know everything. Life is a university, right? We're always learning and growing. Absolutely. And, and I learn something every single time I go to class, even fast forward, from knowing nothing to, I'm so honored that I can teach with his class. But he's worked with me. I need help. He'll give me advice. I have a question if I can't do something. He's so great to talk to that way. So he's a great guide and again, a great mentor. Yeah. Really I'm very blessed to have that.
They do say the right teacher comes in at the right time for someone. You find that right
Yes.
person at the right time, and being connected to someone. Can I ask you, if you had to, let's just say someone came into your salon and said, look, I'd really like to develop, I feel like I've got an ability. Is there any kind of advice you could give them of, I mean, I've got loads of stories of what not to do to change and what I would love to change, but do you have the same? What advice would you give to someone, is what I'm trying to say, on the beginning of their journey?
So you have to find the right mentor.
Yeah.
And it's very important because you cannot self-teach yourself. I do believe we are all intuitive. I do believe we all can connect, and people do connect to their loved ones.
Yeah.
But there is a way to do it, and there's a structure. And learning that is very, very important. And I didn't realize that. I am very blessed to have had Drew as my mentor, and not know it, because there's a lot of check everything out first, because there's a lot of unreal things. There's a lot of fake things. There's a lot of people want to take your money. So again, when you're working with spirit, it is super important to, that's an honor to work for spirit. So you have to be really careful. You can really hurt someone emotionally and mentally for the rest of their life if you don't do this correctly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's something we talked about before we come on air, about the uniqueness of the individual. Can you talk about your unique style and how you work?
So I like to go back to when I first go into a reading. If I'm doing a reading for someone for the first time, I like to go back with the cards to like their childhood or close to it, because I believe that tapping into that person first, and kind of clearing the path to where the reading is going. The reading is based on the individual, my client's needs, not necessarily their wants.
Yeah.
So when I first start that way, because I believe a lot of things stem from our childhood. I believe our fears, our beliefs, things that we do we don't realize can, keep us from moving forward where we are now. So I do start that way. A lot of times mediumship will come through, and then, or I can connect to someone intuitively, give them intuitive guidance, either through the cards or just, through a reading. It all depends on what the person wants, but it has to be real. It has to be evidential based. Because that's super important. Everybody does it differently, but that's how I do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And it's important for everybody to find their own uniqueness, isn't it? To find their own way of working. And
yes,
I always say to people, don't be, although we have influences of different people. For me, I've always been, I love the old school mediums, and Gordon Higginson being one. But the problem is times change, but we can still have that discipline within mediumship. And as you said, the ethics of mediumship in terms of how we conduct ourselves in that field is really important. Now, that was quite a serious statement, but let's have some fun, because I know you've got a few fun stories as well and fun predictions as well. And I love, and guys, this isn't serious. This is a bit of fun. Can you give us any fun predictions and whether it's a funny feeling? I'm not saying that the aliens are going to land in Times Square. That's not what we're saying, guys. We're just having a little bit of fun with this. And guys, also, if you want to add comments, don't forget to put them in the chat. Or we can ask, we've got guests coming on every week. We can ask the guests that are coming up. So don't be afraid to ask away. So over to you, Pauline.
So, well, I believe that one day, because how people believe in Atlantis and under the sea. I believe they will have a resort and hotel of Atlantis under the sea, like to experience actual marine life and being actually under the sea, right? Because they have ice hotels. So why wouldn't they do something, have an Atlantis hotel and resort right under the sea?
See, I think you've hit on a
Right?
business
Why
plan,
wouldn't
right? Yeah, you've hit on a business plan right
I?
there.
I I mean, listen, Little Mermaid was my favorite movie, and I always thought I was a mermaid as a child. And why wouldn't this be happening?
Yeah,
I think it would be great.
yeah.
Another one is they will find out who Bigfoot is and where Bigfoot is.
Well,
I'm sure
that's
of it.
really
They're
interesting. Yeah, yeah, because you guys, you've got some
they're
unusual phenomenon over there. Of course, you've got the Bermuda Triangle, and you've also got Bigfoot,
yes.
and or otherwise known as Sasquatch. Am I right in saying that? Sasquatch?
Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
not
there's
sure.
so many different names.
Yeah,
Yeti. There's so
yeah.
many. Depends on where the Bigfoot is. Yeah.
So in
Yeah.
the
I
UK
love
here,
Bigfoot. I'm.
yeah, absolutely. In the UK here, we've had people that have seen giants, but it goes way back in
Mm-hmm.
folklore as well. So I'm not sure if they're connected to Bigfoot. I don't know. Or it could just be one
I
hairy
know it's
dude.
a mystery.
Yeah. It
Yeah.
could just be one hairy dude that's
Yeah.
been camping out in the wild to save paying for his rent, you know? It's all there.
Yes.
I love this kind of stuff, the mysteries. I really do. But for you
Yeah.
personally, are you going to separate out from the shop and the mediumship? Are you going to go wholly mediumship in the future? Or what's your plan?
Well, you know what? I always leave it up to spirit. Um, I'm not sure what's happening. It's such an amazing journey for me. Like, you reaching out to me to do a podcast. This is my first podcast. I've never done one before. Um, People reaching out to me to do groups and galleries. It's just so amazing. So I just let spirit lead and see where it takes me. I love doing hair. That's my passion. I love to make people look and feel beautiful. And I feel that this is just an extension of my work. So doing both for now is amazing. And if I get that busy, I can't, then I'll, see what happens. But I just let spirit take me, and I just don't say no. I just keep going.
Yeah,
Even though things get challenging, I just keep going. So
yeah, yeah,
I don't know. To
absolutely.
stay tuned, to be continued. I don't know.
One thing I was going to ask you, because you're connecting to somebody personally, and it's more than what we do when we just sit in front of someone. You're actually touching someone, you're connecting to
Yeah.
them.
Yes.
Are you ever aware when someone's going to pass, or there's somebody or something quite tragic within them? Do you become aware of that? And how do you deal with that?
Well, if I connect to things tragically, I start to, sometimes I have to excuse myself. I might shake or I get nervous, and I am not that type of person. So I know there's something in the energy, but I don't ever bring up mediumship while I'm doing a haircut.
Okay.
One time I do remember that stood out, that I was cutting a client of mine's hair for years, and he had come in, and I started shaking. My hands were shaking. I was shaking. I was getting this really, really overwhelming feeling, and I had to excuse myself. So I went into the back and I said, "What is wrong with me?" Like, I thought something was physically wrong with me.
Yeah.
So I went up to the front and I started talking to him, and it turned out that that was the anniversary of his dad, who actually died in the tsunami.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, and once he said it, then that feeling went away, but I got nervous for myself, like I couldn't figure out. So I do pay attention to that now, but I don't ever bring anything up like that to people ever, because you don't know, like, I don't know what that person's going to be. And I don't want to give that to them, that feeling to them, because I don't know how they're going to be. So
And
I
can you
just
imagine
don't.
if you, heaven forbid, if you said something and you actually got it wrong? The potential
That
for
too.
damage
Yes.
on that is I know we talked about this briefly earlier, but it is such a big subject. It's worth kind of emphasizing to budding mediums. And there is this term called the leaky medium. When you're first developing, a lot of mediums
Mm,
tend to just give what they get without processing before. I know if you process and you start thinking, obviously you're not in the flow, but you do have to be careful in certain
right.
situations. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Do you mind if we talk a little bit about color? So I'm coming into your
Mhm.
hair salon. This is hopefully this will make you laugh. I'm coming into your hair salon. What color would you make my hair? And please don't give me
Well,
a ball rinse.
what I'm going to say to you is that men look very distinguished with gray hair.
Oh, okay.
So if anything for you, if you were like, I really want to color my hair, I would do a blending.
Okay.
So it would really blend your dark and light hair together. If you didn't want to do color, I would recommend to you to use a violet shampoo,
Yeah.
because the purple will take out the yellow tones. It will neutralize them. And everybody has yellow tones in their hair from smoking or cooking or the environment. And
Yeah.
it would really make your gray sparkle. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
what I would suggest to you.
Yeah, I'm kind of resisting the grey hair at the moment. I'm not dyeing at the top; it's fine. But it's it's quite short, so you can't really see it. But it's that as we get older. But it's interesting the colours that we connect to. I always believe that there's something about the person within that colour. And do you find that the people that want their hair a certain colour, there is something within them that resonates with that colour? Yeah,
So when I look at them, I look at them as a whole. I look at their skin tone, I look at their eye color, and then the tone of the hair. So there's there's red undertones, there's yellow undertones, there's blue undertones and green undertones. So that all has to be like computed together before I can recommend them a style. Like, some people need a warmer tone. Some people have olive to their skin tone, either a greenish or a yellowish cast, which you can't really obviously see to the eye, but I could see it.
yeah,
So, say if someone has an olive tone or a yellow tone to their skin, they can't really have yellow or blonde or gold. They have to do with more of the warm tones, the redder tones or the red violet tones. So that's a whole thing that I see that I can put together to give them the correct color for what they
yeah,
need, because you need color in your hair to, so that it's up against your skin, because you'll look very washed out, you'll look very drained. So it's very important, even color therapy to people, what they wear. People will buy 7 of the same shirts that they love, but wear only 2 of the colors, because those 2 colors really only look the best on them, but they don't realize it.
yeah.
I could go into a whole color, winter, spring, summer, fall. I could do your colors. I could, that's like a whole thing for me I could do. So I love color. I just love color.
I love it. I love it. And I wanted to touch on as well in terms of, because you have a lovely family. You do put, and like I said, guys, check out check out Pauline's TikTok. It's brilliant. There's some great stuff. Psychic detective as well. I'd like to ask you about the psychic detective that you do. I love that.
So where that came from was growing up Italian. So crazy, when you're Italian, I grew up Catholic, but with crazy superstitions.
Mm.
And, they just scared me to death. I think it was scarier growing up Italian than it was to be a psychic when I started to develop. And so I use a lot of those things that I find now very entertaining. So, all the psychic, with all the like, don't put your shoes on the table. God lives there. You know, I had 100 of the red horns in my car and carry them, and, you know, all kinds of stuff. Don't eat. You have to wait an hour after you eat, or you're going to get cramps and you'll drown. And, you know, so all these things that I grew up with, I find very funny now. So I put them in a skit called Psychic Detective Agency, because a lot of people think sometimes it's a telephone to God, but it's really not. So I kind of like make a goof on all of that. And I don't know, it was just very funny growing up. But yeah, so that's where the Psychic Detective Agency comes from.
Yeah, absolutely. Check that out, guys. It's really funny. Check out Pauline's TikTok account. And how can we find you on TikTok again? I think it's Rock Your Chakra, isn't it? On TikTok.
Yeah, it's Rock Your Chakra, 1111. Yeah, it's on TikTok.
Yeah.
So I do that too. That's funny.
Brilliant,
Yeah.
brilliant. The other thing I was going to say, because you mentioned family and growing up, how does your family deal with the fact you're a medium? I know you've got a lovely family. Children, how are they? Partner, how are they doing? Are they okay with it? You know, some people just don't want to know, do they?
Well, yes, I have. I've actually, there are a few people in my life that have either said to me, "Oh, it makes sense now that you're a medium," or some people are don't want to really speak to me because for whatever reason, which is okay. My family is so super supportive. I have 6 children, and I do believe they're all intuitive as well. And I do make sure that they pay attention to those things, and because it will help guide them in their life, and not to turn it off, to, you know, make sure that they trust their gut, because their gut never lies. And they're very super supportive. Starting doing this in the beginning, they were, you know, they all tease me and everything, but I know they love and support me. And, you know, they're very proud of me, just like I'm very proud of them. And my husband is one of my biggest cheerleaders. He is actually a football coach. So,
Oh, nice.
you know, he wanted to understand. Yeah.
Is that soccer or American football?
American.
Okay.
Yeah, American football. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he, you know, but he is a very factual person. So in the beginning, I was trying to explain things to him that I couldn't really explain myself. So it was very challenging, but he loves to hear everything that I do. He helps me, you know, at the coaching end of it. He helps me a lot. So, and I bounce things off of him. So it's really great. Everybody that loves me loves and supports me, and really that's all that matters in life, right? Like,
absolutely.
So,
absolutely. Because some people, they have experiences where their family don't support them. So to have that support is priceless, I believe. So yeah,
yes,
it's really,
they're all amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. In terms of your mediumship now, how do you work? Is it clairvoyantly? Do you get more clairsentience? How do you work? Or is it a mixture of all of them?
It's a mixture of all of them. I believe really getting into the reading through feeling. I think feeling is most important when doing a reading, because if you are reading somebody clairvoyant, you know, again, me doing hair, somebody could say, well, I see they have brown hair, and the person you're reading for may say, well, no, their hair was gray, or no, it was red. So everybody's interpretation of what people see is very different. So when I do a reading, I really try not to describe someone that way, because, or someone is, 6'2", and they'll say no. I mean, maybe they were 6 foot, but everybody's interpretation of how tall they are and what they see. So what I see is important to me, and I try not to share that with the client because I think it gets confusing to them.
Absolutely. It's about perception.
But the knowing, Yes, yes. But the knowing for me too is, I guess, from connecting with people all my life, just that knowing, that feeling again, really gets me to blend with a person. So, and then that it makes it easier for me to link. So, I guess, did I answer the question? I know
Yeah, you did.
sometimes I go
Absolutely.
sideways.
Well, our guys that watch this show, that they let a lot of people are developing themselves or just generally interested. But in amongst what we just asked you, in terms of when you connect to someone, is there a ritual you use to attune yourself to spirit world? If
Well,
indeed you
I
use
don't have
that
a
analogy.
ritual. Well, so I believe meditation is super important and everybody should meditate. But in the beginning, I watched a lot of, things and thought I had to connect to things. I thought I had to have a ritual. I thought I had to, first it was crystals and then it was carrying things and writing things. And then what I realized is that really was such a distraction to getting what I needed to do. So I dropped it all.
Yeah.
And the only thing I do now is meditate. And because if you do that, I feel like, oh my God, if I don't have my crystal with me, then I can't do this. And it's not true. Once you develop and grow, you'll be able to just go from one place to the other, sometimes by the snap of your fingers. But meditation, sitting in the power, is 100% needed. Even if you're not a medium, everybody should do it. So that I'm going to say is what's most super important. Everything else, I don't know. I don't really believe in rituals, to be honest with you, anymore. I did before, but I don't now.
Yeah, that's really important. A lot of people just I know people that just use music, just get themselves into that headspace to connect,
Yeah.
whether it's a beautiful piece of music or just going out for a walk in the country. It's that just getting into that heart space. So yeah,
Right. It helps you shift into the spirit world. Yeah.
yeah. Again, just kind of going into the mechanics of mediumship again. Have you found your mediumship has changed over the years in terms of the way you work?
My mediumship is always changing from when I learned to now. And the part now that I'm really working on, the evidence part, is really expanding the evidence.
Yeah.
So for me, because evidence is super important, being general in a in a reading is not really getting a reading. Knowing something that your sitter only knows, or the person in the spirit world you're connecting to only knows, that's doing a mediumship reading. That's real. So, so for me, working on my evidence, expanding my evidence, I feel will even give my client more of what they need, and knowing that there is more to life than just here in the physical world, that they are still with us, our loved ones, and they're always loving and guiding us. So, and they want to hear from them and know that they're okay. So, so it is always evolving. When you first start, it's very, I felt very robotic, like getting evidence and evidence and evidence. But then I realized that the client already knows those things. They want the essence of the person. They want to feel the person. They want to know they're in the room with them. They want to know, if they hear them when they speak to them, or certain messages that they didn't get to say goodbye. So those are the important things in the reading. And that happens over time. You evolve as you grow and you educate, and you keep learning and you keep going. And so that's where I am right now. I'm like, just so like, I don't know. I just love what I do. I just love helping people and giving them healing messages, because really that's what it's all about. It's all about the healing. If it doesn't heal, it's not real, right?
Absolutely.
Like we said.
Absolutely. And I what I do love about you in terms of what comes across on your TikTok, I know I keep talking about your TikTok, Pauline, but it is really entertaining. Some of your, some of your psychic
Well, that's
detective and
good
other
because
things.
I
But it's the energy, isn't it? The energy that you generate, it gets people infused as well, and it just helps to kind of make that connection as well, and take and disperse away some of the fear that's behind what we do. Yeah,
yes,
and did you,
well,
sorry, go on. There's a delay
that
on here. I'm so sorry.
no, ask me, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, in terms of the fear factor, because that's another quite, a lot of mediums go through that. And I, as a child, I'm going to be honest, I was scared of the dark. And that was because I was aware of my grandfather was around. He passed away when I was 6, and it kind of stayed there. Plus, it didn't help if my sisters are listening. They used to tease me about the dark. They were a lot older than me. They used to scare me as well, which didn't help. So there is that fear factor with mediumship. And how do you did you have that at all? Was you just kind of blasé? Was it okay for you?
You mean as a child or just in general?
Well, in general, I mean, I know a lot of people today that are budding mediums, but they still have fear. They still are anxious about what they're doing, and there's a fear element to it.
Oh, okay. So I do not have a fear of, if I see, say a dark shadow or something, when I will always tell people that it's not negative. So if you see something and you feel that it's negative or it's evil or something, that's really coming from the person. I
Yeah,
don't think at all, or I believe at all, not think, I believe that that's not coming from the shadow you saw. So it's the same thing like with Ouija boards, that people play with Ouija boards, and are they evil? And it's all how you interpret things. So if mediums are afraid of things, they shouldn't be,
yeah,
because if you're speaking to spirit and you're connecting to people on a soul to soul level, there should be no fear. And it's funny because, even between heaven and hell, right? Like I've never read for someone and they've said, it's really hot down here. Like there's a hell, you know what I mean? Like I don't do anything negative like that. So, no, I don't believe in anything. I never did, which was another big question when I started doing this, because there are some people who believe in evil spirits and all this stuff. I personally don't, because I've never experienced that. But again, I do believe it comes from the person more than what they're seeing. I believe it comes from within them. So they need to really kind of take a step back and, reevaluate where they are and why they think something is, evil or bad or something like that. So
okay, if
does
I
that
can
make
take
sense?
you back in time now, if I can take you back in time, but you're still here with the experience, is there anything you'd like to say to yourself or something unexpected about mediumship that you didn't expect in the early days? If that makes sense. Sort of talking
Um,
to your younger self.
I probably would have done this a lot sooner. I probably wouldn't have discounted all of my experiences just to being experiences,
Yeah.
or not understanding them. Or, for people when you were saying, who don't support you, or people that don't believe in things. So, taking my abilities and using them, using my being a hairstylist as my platform to make people, look beautiful. Whereas I could have probably done this a lot sooner instead of using my hair studio to do so. So that's what I would tell my younger self is I would encourage my younger self to have done this a long time ago. If I could, if I was meant to. I mean, maybe my journey wasn't meant to do that, but I would have loved to have done this a lot sooner than I am
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Amen to that as well. I wish I'd have had the courage a lot sooner to do what I was supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess, I do believe in right time. Timing is everything. I really
Yes.
do believe in that. So maybe we are meant to be a little bit older. And it's a confidence thing as well. There's a
Yeah.
confidence thing with mediumship. It's such a difficult discipline. It's not easy to put yourself
Yes.
out there and say, hey, I'm a medium. No, you need to put your money where your mouth is and prove that. So that's not an easy thing. So I do take my hat off to the younger mediums that are out there working. I do take my hat off to them. But in terms of mediumship itself, I kind of wanted to ask you about certain aspects of it that surprised you. I mean, do you hear spirit or are you more clairvoyant? How does it work for you?
Um, I'm gonna say how I would say I'm more clear cognizant, more
Yeah,
about the knowing at first. It's kind of like a connection I'll make with something first, and then I can see things. Like I can do many things. I've learned not to discount things. Sometimes you get a feeling either through your body or you get a smell or and I wouldn't even pay attention to those things. So, but the more you pay attention to your surroundings, the more you will notice you do. I mean, I'm clairvoyant. I'm clairsentient, clairaudient. I do hear things at times, but it all depends on the reading. It all depends on, the connection. It's not the same every time. Like some people will say, I'm clairvoyant. No, but you're not just clairvoyant.
yeah,
You do a lot of other things. You have to, like when we teach the class, I will tell the students, I will make them do what they do the least, what they feel the most uncomfortable doing. That's what I make them do because people want to go to seeing right away. Everybody wants to be clairvoyant, but you can't just do a reading based on being clairvoyant,
yeah.
So, so
You'd
yeah,
probably
so I
make
don't
too
think I'm
many.
one specific.
Yeah, you'd probably make too many assumptions if you're just working clairvoyantly. Because if you're just seeing, you're
Yes.
not getting the whole picture, are you?
Yes. Right. Right. And seeing is that everybody has an different interpretation of what they see. I mean, if I do somebody's hair brown, they might say to me, oh, it looks red, and it's not red, but everybody has a different interpretation of stuff. So seeing can be a little tricky. And like I said, if you see, I feel it's for me, I don't really share the description too much because that can kind of, confuse the sitter sometimes. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was listening to, as you know, we do interview a lot of mediums on Spiritual Talk, and I was listening to an interview recently I did with Charlie Kelly, and he said sometimes we can give too much information. For example,
yes,
you might see a gentleman in a sports car that died at 18 because he's given you 18, and it's a white sports car. Now, if you just said the sports car at 18 specific information and not necessarily given the color, which, you do have to trust as well. But then the recipient could take everything apart from the color. So there is a part of you that is it laced from your
yeah,
subconscious, the way you're seeing it. So it's difficult, isn't it? Because there's a part of you that wants to trust as well. You really want to give that complete message, but that can
yeah,
also throw you out of the message. So it's quite difficult. It's a hard call.
absolutely. Yep,
Yeah.
I 100% agree. Yeah.
Just the pitfalls of mediumship and how difficult it can be.
Yes.
And people don't realize
Well,
how hard we have to work at it.
yes, and you have to. I think just doing it is how you get better and you get stronger. Like you just have to do it, and then you go back and you learn from what you do. Like every time I do a reading, I think, well, what did I learn from that? Or, what can I change? What would I do differently? you know, and that's what I do. Or, oh, that's what that means. And so then, you know, but you have to just continue to do it, you know, and
that's great having
so
a
that's
review
what I do.
process. Yeah, that's fantastic
Yeah.
having that review process. But, you know, and there is, for people that are kind of budding mediums learning, there is a massive jump from, you know, reading for your friends and family, or even just friends of friends. And when you start to take money from people, it gets real. You've really got to nail it.
Yes.
You've really got to be, you know, on the now and helping people. So, but people also have this illusion that mediumship isn't about healing.
It's absolutely about healing. It's 100% about healing. People getting a reading, like I said, if being open with an open mind and an open heart will get healing. You know, there are people who just want to talk to people. They want to communicate with their loved one, like I said, through maybe a telephone or channel them. But that's not how it works. You know, it's you get what you need, not necessarily what you want. And, you know, that's important, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, there is a question that we ask all our guests. Okay, and don't rush to answer this because I've kind of just laid it on you now. I should have emailed you this in advance, but I always like to ask people, what is it we're not talking about in mediumship that maybe we should be?
To a client or to...
Well, in terms of within the whole of the industry, all of it, what are we not addressing in our world of mediumship, and not just mediumship, other modalities too, that we should maybe be talking about, maybe be looking at? It's a tough one, that, isn't it?
Talking about? Yeah. Let me see. For people, I mean, I feel there's a lot of expectations, and different expectations from people that when you're doing a mediumship connection, and knowing that sometimes you can be wrong or sometimes you can be off, you know, and it doesn't make for a bad medium and it doesn't make for a bad connection. And knowing that like what's on TV is really on TV. So things are edited, and a lot of people think that that's the way mediumship is. It's either perfect or it's not. And that's really not true. So I think talking about that is good for mediums as well as sitters, because the mediums put a lot of pressure on themselves and thinking they have to be perfect. They have to be like the people on TV. And that's not really the mechanics, and that's what sitters see. So I think for both, it just talking about that it isn't a perfect thing, you know, and you can be wrong, and you can be wrong through interpretations, like we were talking about before. It could be as simple as that, but it doesn't mean that the person isn't a good medium, or that the medium should give up or not think they're good. Because, I mean, I remember having to go through all that too. So, knowing no one's perfect, right? And so I think when you're developing, I think that should be talked about a lot more. And, because even doing things on TV, like, you know, people are very interested in that. And, that could become very generic at times, because you have to be on. You have to be on because you're doing a show or whatever. But I do also believe that they should also let people know that it is a connected communication. You know, when you're reading someone, that person has to work just like you're working, not just sitting there receiving and judging or just whatever. You have to link together to get that connection. It's like plugging in. You must plug into each other. So I think the sitter, you know, knowing more that the sitter has to be a part of this reading as well as the medium. It's not just the medium's working and the sitter's just sitting there doing nothing. So I think that should really be explained also.
Yeah, absolutely. Because there isn't enough talked about the responsibility of the sitter. Yeah, the sitter
Yes.
comes, sit down, they put the whole right, and you know, some guys, they'll come in, they'll sit there, arms right, prove it to me, you know, and now, but there is also a responsibility from them to be a part of the process, to go on that journey with you. But we don't talk about that
Absolutely.
so much. We don't, and that's a really difficult and very interesting connection in terms of it's the triangle. It's, you know, it connects all of us together. So without that, it can be quite difficult. So yeah,
and that should be.
We kind of talked about what we should be talking about, but what is it you love within the mediumship world that we do well at? In terms of, are we more open today? I mean, that's one of the things that I find when I first started this. A lot of people just did not like the idea of talking about this kind of thing. It was hocus pocus. So I'm going back a little while. But as a child, I grew up in and around mediumship. And it wasn't even the word deja vu was for, oh, you're a bit weird, man. So we've come so far, haven't we? Yeah.
Yes.
In terms of your experience, what do you feel that we do really well?
I believe there's more education now about mediumship, and you know, because it's more talked about now. People are very interested in it, and I believe a lot more people are more intuitive than they realize. So now they are really connecting to want, they're being more interested in that way, you know, because it made it like that mediums were special, you know, like we're special people, and you know, but not really. Like I don't like when they say gift, because it's not really a gift. It's something you develop. It's you know, it's not a gift.
Natural,
I don't know.
isn't it? It's natural. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And there is that. There is a thing where, and you see it every day, there is an ego trap with this, because the more you develop, the more you become open. Some people are like, oh, do you know what? I'm actually quite special. No, you're developing your ability. Well done. You know, a bit like guys that can train for running the London or New York marathon. Guys, well done, but you're not special. You're just focused. You're focused on what you're good at. And I think it's really important that we do need to keep. I think that we can sometimes thwart ourselves with our ego. How do you feel about that?
Well, I always make a joke and I say, our ego is not our amigo. So you have to take the ego out of this work. There is no ego in this work. If you bring ego into this work, then you need to bring yourself out, because it doesn't belong in what we do. You have to stay humble. You have to stay real. And, you know, because we're doing work for the spirit world. This isn't about us. This is about the spirit world. And, you know, we should feel very honored that they're allowing us to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Pauline Catherine, international medium, hairstylist as well. It's been such a pleasure talking to you today. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We love getting everybody's stories on Spiritual Talk, and your energy really comes across the screen. And also, guys, don't forget to check out the TikTok account, and it's Rock Your Chakra
1111.
1111. That's it. And
Yeah.
guys, it's well worth it. You'll love it. So thank you ever so much for joining us this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for coming on Spiritual Talk TV.